I grip my leather-bound notebook until my knuckles turn white, yet somehow manage to keep my face composed as Mr. Holloway slides a check across the polished mahogany table to my brother. $7 million. The amount hits me like a physical blow, but I don't flinch. I won't give them the satisfaction. I'm afraid there's nothing specifically designated for you in the will, Clara, Mr. Holloway says, not quite meeting my eyes. His voice carries the practiced neutrality of a man who's delivered bad news to countless families torn apart by inheritance disputes. Logan lifts a handkerchief to his mouth, but it doesn't hide his smirk as he folds the check with deliberate care. The Santa Fe sunlight streams through the office windows, illuminating dust particles that dance in the air between USA golden curtain, separating the favored from the forgotten. There must be some mistake. I say, my voice steadier than I feel. Grandfather and I spoke just 6 months ago. He promised to set things right. The memory of that conversation floods back with painful clarity. Grandfather Henry sitting in his study at the ranch, examining my agricultural sustainability proposal with genuine interest while a summer storm rattled the windows. His weathered hand had gripped mine, eyes bright with rare enthusiasm. "This work matters, Clara," he'd said. "Your research could change how we farm in drought conditions. I'll make sure you have what you need to continue." My father clears his throat, drawing me back to this sterile law office. Henry always had grand ideas, but in the end, practical considerations prevailed. Practical considerations. Their code for Logan's investment firm that had quadrupled parts of grandfather's portfolio while my research grants barely covered equipment costs. "Your brother has demonstrated real business acumen," my mother adds, her pearl necklace catching the light as she tilts her head, "while your projects are commendable, Clara. They're hardly sustainable without constant funding." The dinner last Christmas flashes through my mind. Logan dominating the conversation with market projections while my parents nodded appreciatively. When I'd mentioned my breakthrough with drought-resistant wheat varieties, Mother had patted my hand dismissively. "That's nice, dear. You're still playing in the dirt, I see." Only Grandfather had asked questions, leaned forward with interest, promised to visit my test fields in Colorado. "Was there nothing else in Grandfather's papers?" I ask, focusing on Mr. Holloway rather than my family. "No message for me? No separate documents?" My voice grows steadier with each word. 6 months ago, Grandfather had been enthusiastic about my work. Something doesn't add up. "You're smart, Clara. You'll figure it out on your own," Mother says with a tight smile that doesn't reach her eyes. "You always have." I notice how they've physically positioned themselves, father and mother flanking Logan like protective bookends, creating a visible family divide across the table. The united front I've faced my entire life. Without family financial support, my research grant expires in 2 months. 2 years of work, 2 research assistants depending on me, all of it hanging by a thread while Logan walks away with enough money to fund my project for decades. Mr. Holloway shuffles papers with sudden discomfort. He pauses, pulls out a sealed envelope from his briefcase, and places it carefully on the table between us. "There is one more item," he says, his voice different now. "A letter from Henry. His instructions were quite specific, to be read at the ranch, in front of all family members." Logan's smirk falters. Father's hand tightens on the back of his chair. I reach for the envelope, but Mr. Holloway gently pulls it back. "I'm afraid I must be present for the reading, as executor," Henry insisted. Something flickers in my chest, not quite hope, but perhaps its cautious cousin. Whatever Grandfather wanted to say, he made sure it couldn't be said here, in this room that suddenly feels too small for all our unspoken truths. Next day, I stand frozen in the doorway of what was once my bedroom, unable to process what I'm seeing. Where my bookshelves, research posters, and childhood keepsakes once stood, Logan's trophies and corporate awards now gleam under recessed lighting. The pale blue walls I'd painted myself have been covered with a stark white, erasing every trace of my existence. "Looking for something?" Logan's voice floats from behind me, satisfied and smug. I lean against the doorframe, my lungs suddenly forgetting how to draw breath. The physical erasure of my space hits harder than the will reading this was deliberate, methodical removal. "When?" I managed to ask, my voice barely audible. "Last spring." Dad thought it made more sense to display family achievements where guests could appreciate them. He brushes past me, adjusting a golf trophy slightly to the left. "Your old stuff is in boxes somewhere." "Storage shed, maybe." After he saunters away, I notice the wastebasket beside the desk now. Something catches my eye, the corner of an envelope with my handwriting. I kneel and pull it from beneath crumpled papers. My throat tightens as I recognize my own letter to grandfather, the address altered with pen strokes that changed my street number. I dig deeper, finding 6 more each unopened, each with subtle address modifications that would ensure they never reach their destination. The evidence lies heavy in my hands, irrefutable proof of deliberate interference. I slip the letters into my pocket, sudden heat flooding my face. In the kitchen, Grandmother Marjorie stands at the counter, her posture rigid despite her 78 years. Her silver hair catches the morning light, creating a halo effect that contrasts with the frost in her eyes. "So you decided to grace us with your presence after all," she says without turning. "Convenient timing." I sink into a chair at the oak table, feeling 12 years old again. "What do you mean?" She places a cup of coffee before me with precise movements. 2 years, Clara. 2 years without a visit or even a proper phone call to your grandfather. And now you appear when the estate is being settled. I called every Sunday. My voice cracks with disbelief. I sent letters monthly. Henry checked that old phone for messages from you until the day he died. Marjorie's words fall like ice. Logan gave him your new number. Henry called it repeatedly. My stomach churns as pieces click into place. What number did Logan give him? When she recites it, the final digit is wrong. Deliberately wrong. That's not my number. I whisper, pulling out my phone to show her. And I was told the funeral was Thursday, not Tuesday. I flew in as soon as I got Dad's message. Skepticism flickers across her features, but something in my expression gives her pause. I have the letters. I say, removing them from my pocket. Look at the addresses. Someone altered them so they'd never arrive. She examines them with narrowed eyes, her fingers tracing the altered numbers. The kitchen falls silent, except for the steady tick of the antique clock, the one grandfather wound every Sunday after our phone calls that apparently never connected. I open my research notebook, flipping to my grant timeline. My funding expires in 2 months. Without it, I'll have to shut down the Colorado test fields. The words taste bitter. The drought-resistant wheat varieties we've developed could help farmers across the Southwest, but without continued support. The pages blur as I blink back tears. 2 research assistants depend on this project, Ellie with her student loans, Marcus supporting his young family. Years of work, countless nights analyzing soil samples and crossbreeding results, all balanced on the knife edge of financial stability that just crumbled beneath me. Did grandfather ever mention my research? The Sustainable Agriculture Project? Marjorie's expression shifts subtly. He spoke of some agricultural initiative, said it was important for the future of the ranch lands. She studies me with new attention. Logan told us you'd abandoned your studies for a corporate position in Denver. Another lie. The revelation hangs between us. Without a word, Marjorie walks to the study and returns with Henry's old phone. Her fingers move with purpose as she checks the call log, scrolling back through months of history. These calls, she says slowly, from this number, every Sunday morning. She compares it to the number on my phone. For months, I watch her face transform from icy resentment to horrified understanding. The granite certainty that hardened her features softens into confusion, then sharpens into something else entirely, anger not directed at me. As the truth settles between us, I wonder, should I immediately confront my family with what we've discovered, or wait until the official will reading at the ranch where more of the truth might be revealed? The desire for immediate justice burns in my chest, but patience might reveal Henry's full intentions. Marjorie places her weathered hand over mine. We have some catching up to do, it seems. I nod, the first tendrils of alliance forming between you's unexpected support in a house that no longer feels like home. Next morning, I wake to the sound of hushed voices outside my bedroom door. Through the thin strip of light beneath it, I see shadows pacing back and forth, murmuring about me. Yes, Aunt Elaine, it's just as we feared. Logan's voice carries the practiced concern he reserves for family politics. Clara showed up for the will reading, collected whatever she could, and now she's threatening to contest unless we pay her off. My stomach tightens as I sit up, pressing my ear against the cool wood. After abandoning poor Henry when he needed her most, Logan continues, voice dripping with manufactured sorrow. Never visited, barely called. Now she wants her share. The lies roll off his tongue with such ease. I press my palm against the door to steady myself, remembering the stack of returned letters I found yesterday, my carefully printed addresses deliberately altered. By breakfast, the damage is done. Cousin Marlene passes the salt without meeting my eyes. Uncle Jim's usual bear hug becomes a stiff nod. Even the family friend who taught me to ride horses decades ago studies her coffee rather than acknowledge me. Perhaps we should postpone the formal will reading, Logan suggests, buttering his toast with practiced precision. Everyone's emotionally exhausted, and Clara's sudden demands are creating unnecessary tension. I've made no demands, I say, my voice steady despite the anger burning in my chest. I simply want to hear what grandfather intended. Grandmother Marjorie glances between us, her expression unreadable. The reading proceeds as scheduled. Henry's wishes deserve our respect. Logan's knife clatters against his plate. Mother, be reasonable. The matter is settled, she says, pushing back from the table. After breakfast, I wander through the ranch house, retracing childhood footsteps. In the den, I pause before the row of family photo albums, pulling one from 1998, the summer I won the state science fair with my irrigation project. I remember grandfather standing proudly beside me as the local newspaper took our picture. The page where that photo should be shows a ragged edge where something has been removed. I flip through more albums, discovering systematic erasure. Every significant moment between Henry and Megan. My graduation photos, research celebration dinners, even casual Christmas snapshots carefully excised. I sit heavily on the leather ottoman, album open on my lap, staring at the physical manifestation of what my family has done for years, erasing me. That night, I wake with a start in my childhood bedroom. The space feels wrong, foreign. The walls that once held my soil composition charts and botanical sketches now display Logan's finance awards and fraternity memorabilia. My old bed remains, but everything else has been stripped away, replaced with evidence of Logan's achievements. I lie awake counting ceiling cracks I've known since childhood, planning my next move. By morning, I've started photographing evidence with my phony-altered addresses on returned letters, missing photos, tampered mail. The ranch hands tip their hats when I walk to the barn the next morning, but their eyes slide away. Logan's stories have reached them too. All except Walter, who's been tending these fields since before I was born. He approaches me near the old tool shed, weathered hands nervously adjusting his hat. Miss Clara, he says quietly, glancing toward the house. Your grandfather asked me to keep something for you. From inside his jacket, he pulls a small, leather-bound book. Said some folks might not want you to have it. The book's worn cover bears my grandfather's initials. Inside, I find pages of his distinctive handwriting observations about crop yields, soil conditions, and notes about my research. Several pages contain detailed thoughts about my drought-resistant wheat project, with calculations for funding requirements. He was mighty proud of your work, Walter says, before shuffling away. That afternoon, I find my parents and Logan in grandfather's study. Sunlight streams through the windows, illuminating dust particles that dance between us. I'm tired of hiding, tired of pretending their actions don't cut to the bone. I found evidence of tampering with grandfather's communications, I say, placing my phone on his desk, screen displaying photos of the altered addresses. Oh, Clara, Mother sighs, always so dramatic. You deliberately kept us apart. My voice remains level even as anger burns through me. Father straightens papers on the desk, not meeting my eyes. You were always capable of taking care of yourself. Logan needed the advantages. This was never about need, I say, the truth crystallizing as I speak it. It was about who you chose to see. The silence that follows feels different. For years, I've fought for their validation, their acknowledgement. Standing here in grandfather's study, surrounded by evidence of their deception, I finally understand I've been seeking approval from people determined not to give it. The will reading proceeds tomorrow, I say, turning to leave, as scheduled. Clara, Logan calls after me, his voice losing its usual confidence. Be reasonable. We're family. The word family hangs in the air between us, hollow and meaningless. I find grandmother Marjorie on the back porch, watching sunset paint the distant mesas. When I show her the evidence of intercepted communications, her lined face hardens. Logan told me you never called, she says quietly, that you were too busy with your research to visit Henry during his illness. I called every Sunday, I reply. Left messages when no one answered. She nods once, decision made. The will reading happens tomorrow. All of it. That evening, Walter appears at the kitchen door with a box of mail my letters to grandfather, scientific journals I'd sent him, even holiday cards all unopened. Found these in Mr. Logan's old trunk, he says simply. As dusk settles over the ranch, I help grandmother prepare the great room for tomorrow's reading. We arrange chairs in a circle, place water glasses on side tables. The family lawyer is bringing additional documents not presented at the first reading. Documents grandfather insisted be revealed here, on his land, where the truth began. I place Henry's leather notebook on the center table, marked at pages detailing projects unknown to my family. Whatever happens tomorrow, I no longer seek their approval. I'm fighting for something more important now, the truth of who my grandfather was, and who I am because of him. When headlights sweep across the driveway, announcing the lawyer's arrival, I stand straighter. The battle for grandfather's legacy and my own begins now. Next day, I arrange the chairs in the great room with deliberate precision, creating a courtroom-like atmosphere with the massive oak table between us. My family sits clustered on one side, father, mother, and Logan lined up like defendants awaiting judgment. I position myself directly across, a solitary figure with grandfather Henry's leather notebook placed prominently before me. Is this really necessary, Clara? Mother asks, smoothing her cream-colored skirt. We could discuss matters over lunch instead. The will reading happens here, now. My voice carries a firmness that surprises even me. The family lawyer, Mr. Holloway, enters with his briefcase and additional documents. His eyebrows lift slightly when he notices the seating arrangement, but he says nothing as he takes his place at the head of the table. Before we begin, I say, tapping specific bookmarked pages in Henry's notebook, I believe there are matters that need clarification. Logan's smirk falters when he spots the unfamiliar notebook. His eyes dart to our father, whose jaw tightens visibly. What is that? Logan demands, leaning forward. Grandfather's private research journal. I open to a page where Henry meticulously documented our conversations about drought-resistant wheat varieties. The one he referenced in our call skulls you made sure he never received. Logan's face flushes. This is ridiculous. She's trying to manipulate grandmother against me. Can we please just proceed with the reading? Grandmother Marjorie, who had been silently observing from her armchair near the fireplace, rises with surprising agility for her 80 years. Actually, she says, her voice cutting through the tension, I believe we should address how I discovered my phone had been programmed to redirect Clara's calls to an answering service. She withdraws a small notebook from her pocket. The service representative was quite helpful in explaining who set up the account. The lawyer clears his throat. I should note that Mr. Whitmore Sr. expressed concerns about family interference in his communications. It's partly why he insisted on this second reading taking place here, at the ranch. Logan's confident posture begins to collapse inward. This is slander. Is it slander when I have the receipts? Grandmother asks, her voice steel beneath velvet. Or when I found Clara's letters with deliberately altered addresses in your desk drawer? Father stands abruptly. This is becoming hostile. Perhaps we should reconvene when tempers have cooled. Mr. Holloway turns to me. Miss Whitmore, given the hostile environment, do you wish to proceed with the reading? I hesitate, fingers resting on grandfather's notebook. Would pushing forward now risk the revelation Henry intended, or would delaying give my family time to interfere once again? The desire for immediate justice burns in my chest, but patience might reveal Henry's full intentions. Before I can answer, Walter appears at the doorway, his weathered hands gripping 3 cardboard boxes. Without a word, he carries them into the room and places them beside me. What are those? Mother asks, her perfectly manicured hand fluttering to her throat. Walter nods respectfully toward Mr. Holloway. Mr. Henry instructed me to keep these safe. They're Miss Clara's intercepted mail and research documents. Been collecting them for near 2 years now whenever I found them discarded. That's private property, Logan sputters, half rising from his chair. Yes, I say quietly. My private property. Grandmother Marjorie moves to stand beside me. I witnessed Henry expressing his intentions regarding Clara's research. He believed it represented the future of the Whitmore legacy. Her hand rests briefly on my shoulder. I believe we have legal grounds to proceed, regardless of objections. The lawyer nods. Indeed we do. I watch Logan's shoulders slump as Marjorie details each deception discovered. The color drains from Mother's face when she realizes the extent of their exposure. Father's fingers drum nervously on the table when Mr. Holloway mentions, substantial secondary holdings, not addressed in the initial reading. If everyone is seated, Mr. Holloway says, removing a sealed envelope from his briefcase, I'll proceed with reading from documents not presented at our first meeting. I glance at Walter, who gives me a nearly imperceptible nod. Grandmother's hand squeezes my shoulder once more before she returns to her seat. For the first time since grandfather's death, I feel something other than grief and betrayal flooding through me. Justice. It tastes like the summer rains that bring life back to parched earth. Mr. Holloway breaks the seal on the envelope and begins to read. I rise from my chair as father clears his throat, his voice adopting that reasonable tone he reserves for business negotiations. Before we proceed with more revelations, he says, straightening his tie, perhaps we should consider a family compromise. Split everything evenly and avoid airing our dirty laundry in front of others. His eyes flick toward the lawyer, then Marjorie. Mother nods vigorously, pearl earrings catching the afternoon sunlight. Family unity should be our priority now. Henry would have wanted that. Their sudden interest in fairness would be touching if it weren't so transparent. I catch Grandmother Marjorie's eye across the room. A slight shake of her head tells me everything. Mr. Holloway has a legal obligation to read the will as written. I say, my voice steady, let's honor grandfather's wishes. Logan stands abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. If there are suspicious last-minute changes to the will, I'll contest it. You know I will. His finger jabs toward me, then toward Mr. Holloway. Grandfather wasn't thinking clearly those last months. Mr. Holloway remains unruffled, removing his reading glasses to polish them with a handkerchief. Mr. Whitmore, are you suggesting your grandfather was mentally incompetent when he made these decisions? Logan's face flushes. I'm saying Clara had undue influence. I'll note your objection, Mr. Holloway interrupts, replacing his glasses. But, as executor, I must proceed. He opens a leather portfolio and removes a document bearing the Sanders family crest. This addendum to the will establishes the Sanders Agritech Innovation Center, granted in its entirety to Clara Whitmore. The room falls silent. Walter, standing near the doorway, doesn't bother hiding his smile. Mr. Holloway continues reading, his voice echoing in the stunned quiet. The center includes the east section of the ranch property, comprising 2,000 acres of agricultural land, the newly renovated barn laboratory, equipment storage facilities, and staff housing. Additionally, a $5 million endowment for ongoing research, with a personal stipend of $150,000 annually for Miss Whitmore as director. My hands tremble as Mr. Holloway passes me a folder containing property deeds, bank statements, and incorporation papers. Everything necessary to continue my work for decades. Everything grandfather promised. This can't be right, Mother whispers, but I hear the uncertainty in her voice. I meet her eyes across the room. Grandfather saw me, I say quietly. He always did, even when you tried to make me invisible. Mr. Holloway clears his throat. There's more. The center also retains exclusive rights to 7 agricultural patents developed by Henry Sanders over the past decade, currently generating approximately $600,000 annually in licensing fees. Logan's face pales. Patents? What patents? The great room falls silent as Mr. Holloway outlines each innovation: drought, resistant farming techniques, water conservation systems, and specialized equipment design solve fields I've been researching for years. The lawyer's voice fills the space with technical terms that sound like poetry to my ears. Terms that represent freedom. He never mentioned patents, Father says, his composure cracking. Didn't he? I ask, opening grandfather's leather notebook to a marked page. He tracked every development here. We discussed them last summer. Logan paces frantically, his confident swagger replaced by jerky movements. You said it would all be mine, he shouts at Father, then freezes, realizing what he's admitted. I remain seated, watching the truth unfold without needing to say another word. Mr. Holloway continues as if there had been no outburst. The remainder of the estate, including the main house, investments, and liquid assets, is to be divided equally between Clara and Logan Whitmore. Equally? Logan stops pacing. After she gets the research center? Yes, equally, Mr. Holloway confirms. Which, according to my calculations, leaves approximately $3 million each, plus shared ownership of this house. I unfold papers from grandfather's notebook documents, showing the sustainable farming initiative he'd been privately funding for years. He believed in this work. He believed in me. Mother reaches for her water glass, her hand trembling so badly that water sloshes over the rim. Father stares at the floor, suddenly finding the pattern of the rug fascinating. The family photos on the mantel catch my eye, the ones where I'd been pushed to the edges or excluded entirely. Now I understand why grandfather kept his support hidden. He knew they would have undermined any open endorsement of my work. There is one final item, Mr. Holloway says, retrieving an envelope from his briefcase. The same sealed envelope he'd mentioned at the first will reading. A personal letter from Henry, to be read aloud to the family. Logan slumps back into his chair. Is this necessary? Haven't we heard enough? Your grandfather was quite specific, Mr. Holloway says, breaking the seal. Everyone must be present for this reading. I watch Mother's fingers grip her water glass, knuckles white against the crystal. Whatever comes next, grandfather made certain no one could walk away from his final words. For the first time since entering this room, I feel something unfamiliar bloom in my chest. Hope. The following spring, I stand in the center of the renovated barn laboratory, watching morning light stream through the skylights we installed last month. My research team moves with purpose around me, no longer waiting for my hesitant directions. Dr. Whitmore, the soil samples from the eastern quadrant show promising nitrogen retention, Eliza says, handing me a tablet with scrolling data. Should we expand the test area? Double it, I respond without second-guessing myself, and prepare additional sensors for the overnight moisture readings. Through the wide barn doors, yellow school buses rumble up the dirt drive, kicking up dust that glows golden in the morning light. The Little Scientist Project brings rural children from across 3 counties to see sustainable agriculture in action. Their excited faces press against windows as the buses park beside rows of experimental wheat that wave in the gentle breeze. I no longer rehearse my words before speaking, no longer seek approval before making decisions. The barn that once stored hay now houses million-dollar equipment and a team of 12 researchers who look to me for direction. When the first children pour from the buses, I feel a smile spread across my face. The future of my work stands before me in worn jeans and eager eyes. Later that spring, the polished mahogany table gleams under recessed lighting, just as it did that day in the lawyer's office. But today, I stand at its head rather than shrinking in a corner chair. 8 young scientists fidget nervously as I open a wooden box containing leather-bound notebooks. Each of you submitted research proposals that honor the spirit of innovation my grandfather believed in. I say, my voice steady in this room where I once felt invisible. One by one, I hand each recipient a notebook stamped with Henry's words. Write the things they don't understand. One day, the world will. With each presentation, I explain how their work, drought-resistant barley, water conservation techniques, soil regeneration, continues Henry's vision of sustainable farming in the Southwest. The last recipient, a young woman with soil-stained fingernails like my own, clutches her notebook with reverence. Thank you for seeing potential in my work when my university advisor called it impractical. For a moment, I see myself 3 years ago, desperate for someone to recognize value in my research. Sometimes, I tell her, the most important discoveries come from questions others aren't ready to ask. The table where my family once divided wealth now unites minds focused on creating abundance. As evening settles over the ranch, Grandmother Marjorie's rocking chair creaks softly against the weathered porch boards. Walter leans against the railing, his weathered face softened by the amber sunset. Between us sits a bottle of Henry's favorite whiskey, nearly empty now. He'd be proud, Marjorie says, her hand finding mine. Not just of the research, but of how you've transformed what was broken into something whole. Walter raises his glass toward the research fields where experimental crops catch the day's last light. To Henry, he says simply. To seeing people for who they truly are, I add, feeling the evening breeze lift my hair. The years pass quickly when you're building something that matters. 3 years later, I stand at a podium in Washington, D.C., accepting the National Climate Innovation Award. The certificate mentions 4 laboratories operating on my property, 60 acres of experimental crops, and breakthrough technologies already helping farmers across the drought-stricken Southwest. The audience applauds, but my mind drifts back to the ranch, to the simple wooden bench Henry built beside the pond. That's where I still go on clear nights, sitting beneath desert stars, his old leather notebook open in my lap. As I sat beneath the same stars my grandfather once studied, I wondered if true healing comes from rebuilding what was broken, or from creating something entirely new from the pieces left behind? Is family defined by blood, or by those who truly see you for who you are? The stars offer no answers, but I no longer need them to. The answers grow in my fields, work in my laboratories, arrive on yellow buses with curious minds, and gather around my table with soil-stained hands and questions about tomorrow.